How do I want this? Right here. I think that's good. Hello, whoever you are. Subi, how are you? It's so weird. It's so quiet. Every time I'm in here, I feel like I have to be extremely quiet. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Joel, how are you? I am okay. I am okay. I have looked up some other little stories that I have found. Some are not so great. Some are definitely worse than that. But yeah. So I should probably wait a few moments. How was work today, Subi? Joel, how are you doing? Jaylyn, how are you? I think this is the one that I need to click out of. I am okay. We had pot roast for dinner. So I asked Fools afterwards. I was like, "Are you gonna go live? Because after all of this, I'm gonna need some crown. I'll just tell you that. A lot of these articles are very, very upsetting, and I said that I was going to do somewhat of a palate cleanser, which would be, something like strange and unusual, and that would help kind of get us off the crappy stuff. But I had some other things that I was handling, so where's the music? Well, just here for the ride. The music comes afterwards. So this is Miss Rainey's channel, where Miss Rainey talks about crime. And once I tell some crime stories, then the music will come afterwards, if that helps. Beer gut, totally understandable. We were worried about you, or at least I was worried about you, and your wife reached out to me, which I greatly appreciated. So totally understandable, and I don't blame you for that. That is a great, great, great idea. And I wish you the best, and hopefully you have Fool's number, so that way you guys can at least chat, because we'd love to have some New Yorkers over at one point in time. Cowboy, how are you? So, and I think you do, hopefully. But I do appreciate that. And I really do wish you the best, because that would be awesome for you and your family, I'm sure of it. Hi, what am I doing? I'm going to read some crime articles and some crime stories. So that is my plan. And what happened to my stuff? So before I get started, here's some crime you can research. I don't know if you're being serious or not, but what I do want to say before I start any of this is hopefully you are over the age of 18, and know that some of the things, actually all of the things I will talk about, is very graphic, traumatic, could be a trigger warning for you. It could talk about assault. It could talk about unaliving people. It will definitely talk about unaliving people. And it's very, very, very important that if you're sensitive to those subjects, please move on. We do fun stuff on other channels, and I'm happy to join you there. But something such as this live, if you have a weak stomach or if those things bother you, please, I ask that you take precaution or go to the next live. You might see hot yoga or somebody cooking dinner, such as backyard. But anyhow, I'm going to start some of this, and I lost a lot of viewers already, and that's totally fine. So I just want to be sure that I say that prior to starting this, because I don't want anyone to have false ideas of what this is going to be about. So I was doing a little bit of okay. I will look into that. I've got my little paper here. I will write things down. I opened up TikTok today. I don't do a lot of TikToking myself, but I just opened up the app because it said I had some notifications, and the very, very first article or thing that came about was this article I'm going to read to you. So this happened on October 10th, and this little article was written on October 14th. So the headline reads, and I don't know if many of you have heard this already, but it was within the last few days. Human head found in box on Chicago sidewalk. So, a disturbing discovery in Chicago's West Side neighborhood has sent shockwaves throughout the city. Local authorities are investigating after a pedestrian found a human head inside an open box on a sidewalk near a sports complex on West Taylor Street just before 6 p.m. on October 10th. According to the news outlet, the pedestrian was walking their dog at the time of the discovery and hoped the box was merely a Halloween decoration. Rick, we're just starting. The Cook County Medical Examiner's Office later confirmed that the contents of the box were indeed human remains, but has not confirmed the identity of the victim. An autopsy has been performed, though the victim's cause of death has yet to be determined. Kind of hard to figure out if all we have is a head, but many other questions remain about the mysterious find, including how long the remains were there before being discovered, as well as the deceased person's name, age, gender, and race. The remains have been sent to an anthropologist in order to check dental records and possibly determine how the person was unalived. So those of you that just joined, there was a human head found in a box in Chicago. Just, what is today? Today is the 18th, so last week, near a sports complex. Thank you, Whitney. Meanwhile, on top of that news, there was a report of a headless body that was found in northern Indiana the following day. So October 11th, authorities in Indiana could not confirm whether the corpse was related to the one that was found in Illinois. So there is that. And then to make matters even more chilling, the case comes just days after another gruesome discovery in the city, Chicago, this time in an embankment on state property. According to NBC News outlet, the city's police department retrieved skeletal remains along the side of Interstate 90 on Chicago's northwest side on October 6th. The victim in this case has also not been identified. So we have 3 wrapped in one. So we've got a headless body found in Indiana, a head found in Illinois, and then skeletal remains. So they don't know if Dream, I would imagine Chicago. I've never been. I think I flew in through there, but that's about it. I can't say I've been there if I'm only going to the airport. That you deal with a lot of crime in that area anyhow. But when you're talking about torsos and things like that, that's definitely a little more extreme than, say, a drive-by or, you know, domestic assault. So it'll be interesting what comes about with this, and we'll see kind of what happens if they're related, and that will be scary if they're not related because they are close, and that will just make you wonder if there's someone out there who is creating havoc in the cities. So that was the first thing that I opened up to on TikTok today. As you know, well, some of you may know, I'm a crime fanatic. I like to read and hear about all the things, even though they are pretty graphic and gruesome. So, as you know, my algorithm is going to be crazy as opposed to other people where you might get dog stuff or cat stuff. I get articles such as that. So, because they don't say hi back to the locals. Yeah, there's definitely some messed up people out there. Amu, how are you? Good to see you again. Hello all the new people and the returners. So, do I watch Dateline? Yes, ma'am, I sure do. So another one of my favorite places to kind of look for other articles, which I would recommend if anyone's interested in any of these, it's called Law and Crime. And Law and Crime is a little mix of everything. Law, political stuff, criminal stuff. If you're trying to see about the music industry, it is the stuff going on with the music artists, and I know you know what I'm talking about. That is in there. A lot of this is pretty credible stuff, so that's why I use this website specifically. It's not just some random article that someone posted on the internet. So I will run through a few of these. I do have a bigger case that I'd like to discuss. Sorry, that a friend did send over to me, and that one is close to them. So if they'd like to speak on it in the chat, they are more than welcome to. But they sent an article for me that I will read, and I'll do that one last. So it wasn't going to take up at least a full hour, which is why I wanted to throw in some of these other things, and I wanted to make sure that our friend was here for that. So let's move on to the next one, and let's see. I have to go back a page because I was searching for things. Hello, Ben. How are you? Dream, I appreciate you. That is very nice of you, and I respect you for respecting that. So, no thanks, not interested. That's okay. All right, so I've got this headline here, and these are kind of short, and I feel like I'm a pretty quick reader. So, hi Wayne, how are you? So this one, the headline reads, "Woman who fatally spiked boyfriend's sweet tea with antifreeze over non-existent $30 million inheritance is sentenced." So a 48-year-old woman in North Dakota will spend more than 2 decades behind bars for killing her boyfriend, poisoning his sweet tea with antifreeze in hopes of getting her hands on a multi-million-dollar inheritance that didn't actually exist. Ward County District judge on Wednesday ordered Ina, so her name is Ina, to serve a sentence of 25 years in a state correctional facility for the 2023 unaliving of her 51-year-old boyfriend, Stephen Edward Riley. The sentence followed an agreement reached between Ina and prosecutors in which she pled guilty to 1 count of intentional murder. In addition to the prison term, she was also handed a 25-year suspended sentence and 10 years of probation following her release. So 25 and 25 is 50 plus another 10. So hopefully she just doesn't make it out. But Dina from Jersey Shore. Isn't that JWoww? I don't know. I've been told that one before. During Wednesday's proceedings, the victim's sister was one of the several family members to read a victim impact statement. You stole more than a human life. You stole a son from his mother and stepfather. You stole a father from 5 sons, a brother from 2 sisters, an uncle from 12 nieces and nephews, and a great uncle to 8 and many friends. As previously reported, the investigation into Ina began on September 3rd when Stephen was transported to Trinity Hospital, which is about 100 miles north of Bismarck, North Dakota. Due to the severity of his condition, Stephen was airlifted to a hospital in Bismarck. He passed away on September 5th. An autopsy determined that the manner of death was homicide and the cause of death was ethylene glycol poisoning, authorities said. About 2 months after his passing, police on October 30th placed Ina under arrest, stating that she had financial motives to off him. The case was extremely complex. Thank you to everyone who provided us with information that helped our investigators piece this together. So in the aftermath of Stephen's passing, friends and family members came forward and told investigators that Ina had previously made comments about poisoning her longtime boyfriend with antifreeze. They also reported that Ina began claiming that Stephen had been poisoned by someone while he was at the hospital while he was being treated. The motive for the murder was a scam, about $30 million worth of inheritance that had been left to Stephen by a distant relative, which duped both of them. After learning about the inheritance, Stephen reportedly started telling friends that he planned to leave Ina and split the money between him and his 5 sons. When speaking to police, Ina said that she was aware of the inheritance, explaining that she would be entitled to a portion of it because she was Riley is his last name, Stephen's common-law wife at the time of his passing. When detectives informed her that the state of North Dakota did not recognize common-law marriages, she became visibly upset. While executing a search warrant on the couple's home, police reportedly recovered a glass beer mug and a plastic beer from the garage, both of which tested positive for antifreeze. She eventually admitted that she put antifreeze in a mug of Riley's sweet tea with the intention of unaliving him. So, that is that. So, friends, the moral of the story is don't trust anyone. That includes you fools. You might get rid of me one of these days. And no one would ever know it. So, in case it happens, guys, make sure I get an autopsy. Thanks. I'm kidding. Kidding. That's really not funny. It's really sad that people will do anything over money. I remember reading a story where someone had mugged someone else and ended up unaliving them, and I think they had like $2 in their pocket. So I'm immune to antifreeze at this point. Yeah, I wouldn't doubt that. So it's just sad that it's usually money or infidelity that drives a lot of these domestic unalivings is what I've noticed. So it's usually a man or a woman who's can't get a divorce because that would be too easy. They just decide to take matters into their own hands, and it never works out the way they're. I mean, I'm not going to say it doesn't, but I have a dog that is really upset with me right now. Hold on. You coming in with me? Okay. If you're coming in, you got to sit down. We're talking to the people. No, get down. Were you all alone? Oh, oh, here comes the dad. He's coming. Wait for it. He's like, gosh dang it. She's all waiting. Let's see, here he comes.
Come on.
Okay. Chaos is chaotic. Yeah, she was just gonna knock the door down, that little stinker. Okay. So we're moving on to the next one. Yeah, she is, I will tell you, since I took her out yesterday on an outing all day, not only is she protective of me, but she will not leave my side. And I am okay with that, because that was the whole purpose of getting this dog, is to have something near me at all points in time, especially when I go and do the side-by-side thing up in the mountains and hiking and all that. So let's see. All right. I've got another one for you. This one is pretty short. Oh, that's awesome, Ariel. He did not tell me. Fools does not tell me a whole lot unless I ask questions. And I mean that in a nice way. He's got his mind on a million other things. So unless I'm very specific on the questions, I'm unaware of things that go on. So, all right. So this was written October 17th. So yesterday, right? Because today is the 18th, Friday, at least here in the States it is. The article reads, headline, man who unalived an innocent grandmother while she was walking her dog in a park learns his fate. So, an Ohio man was sentenced to 15 years. Just keep that in mind, 15 years only, for randomly unaliving a grandmother who was out walking her dog in a park near her home. Get yourself a pew pew. We have many pew pews, Ian, but thank you for letting us know that. DeJuan Evans, who was 24, learned his fate for the death of Sheila Wallace, who was 58. Did I say 24? Yes. 24 learned his fate for the death of Sheila Wallace, 58, announced in a press release. He pled guilty to involuntary manslaughter, assault, and firearm charges. The Wallace family has waited over 5 years for answers. So this happened back in 2019. Wallace was unalived on January 17th, 2019, while she was on her routine evening walk with her little dog at McGowan Park. Evans and another man were also walking in the park that night toward her when they crossed paths with the victim. Evans stopped, turned around, and fired 4 shots. One shot struck Wallace in the head. The other shot struck her in the chest. Evans said the second man fled. Neighbors found Wallace, her black and white dog, Winston, who was huddled beside her, and called police. Let's see. Okay. Oof. I don't want to read that. That's heartbreaking. A reward was put out to find the killers. This should be a concern to everyone because these 2 individuals who were involved in this unaliving are still on the street. And if they're willing to pull the trigger on an innocent woman walking her dog, no telling what they will do to another human being. Evans was arrested in May 2023 for Wallace's unaliving. The second man wasn't charged. At the time, Evans was in state prison serving a 5-year sentence for robbery. Among the evidence linking Evans to the murder was DNA recovered from a gun used in a shooting months after Wallace's slaying, a Glock pistol turned in by a Good Samaritan. There are so many pieces that went into this indictment, but to the Good Samaritan who found the weapon and turned it over to the police, we thank you. Wallace has 2 grandchildren, and she was an executive medical secretary at the clinic. So, yeah, call your friends, right? Appreciate you, wow. Yeah, that's terrible. Just a lady walking her dog in the park, doing nothing wrong except for existing. And it didn't even say that they tried to rob her or anything. Like, there was no motive, just because. Yeah, Ariel, we deal with them every day. Every day, unfortunately. Every day. I don't want to read that one. Sorry, the titles of a lot of these, if you guys ever go look, if like I said, if you're interested in this, lawandcrime.com, all spelled out, law and crime. Hello, Robert. A lot of these titles are catching, clickbait, I guess you could say, but there are a lot of them that are so graphic that I read it and I'm just immediately disgusted. No, I am not single. I am happily with a man. Ariel's like, and you're gone. With a man who's just in here, who's also in this live. Thank you. Appreciate it. I feel like I read that one. Okay. We need to go back a page. We need to go back a page, friends. Thank you, Sophia. And I don't want to make it cool, that's for sure, but just more informative. I think we take a lot for granted. We don't pay attention to our surroundings. We go places, and it's unfortunate that we even have to think about this, right? But specifically females, don't go out at night by yourself. Change up your routine. Don't always drive the same way home. If you can, keep some type of protection on you. Even if you're underage, there are things that you can purchase that can protect you. Always park under a street light. Always, be in pairs. Don't leave the other one behind. Just, there are so many things that females have to pay attention to that I don't want to say men don't, because a lot of men don't have to worry like females have to. Exactly, Ariel, that's what I'm saying, because you could get a 17-year-old girl who can't be strapped, fools, or maybe their parents don't believe in that, or maybe they're not comfortable with a weapon of that sort. So I don't think that's fair to say that, but keep yourself informed. Always watch your surroundings, If you see someone who looks, if you have that gut feeling that something's not right, trust that. What's the worst that's going to happen? And if you feel uncomfortable, you can say no. There's nothing wrong with that. There was a story that I read that a female was taking her groceries up 2 flights of stairs into, I don't know if any of you have read The Gift of Fear. Great book. I have not finished it yet, but it's called The Gift of Fear. And in the beginning, it talks about a young female who is bringing her groceries up the stairs. And as she's bringing her groceries up the stairs, a can of cat food falls out of one of the bags, and it ends up rolling down the stairs, and it kind of goes around the corner, if you can picture that. And all of a sudden, this man appears. She's never seen this man before, and he's like, oh, here, I can help you. And she kind of got weirded out by it. She kind of felt uneasy, but yet he was still really nice. He asked her to let me help you. You've got your hands full. He was very, very, very persistent on being nice. And she just always had that uneasy feeling that I don't want him to help me, but I don't want to sound like the B word. I'm not going to say that in case there's, whatever you want to censor me as I'm talking about murder. But he ended up helping her take her groceries up to her door. Once she opened her door, he forced her in there, and he assaulted her for hours and hours and hours and hours. And it wasn't until he ended up walking down to the kitchen in her apartment that he left her alone in the room. And when he left her alone, she kind of slowly followed him. And okay, well, you don't have to be here, so that's totally fine. And with that, she watched him go down the stairs into her kitchen and grab a knife, and he was going to come back to her. And she ended up slipping out the door. She got help from a neighbor, but I guess where I'm going with that is if you don't want someone to help you, it's okay to tell them no. Just tell them no. Exactly, Rick. Her intuition was trying to tell her. And people laugh about that. Oh, you've got intuition. Okay. Until it works in your favor. And then what do we call it? A gut instinct, whatever you want to say. So I just think it's important. If you don't know, take classes, read books about it. Just always, with the way the world is now, just pay attention. Pay attention. So, Wayne, I appreciate that. I believe, who was it? Starla said it's the cold reading. So some people may not like the cold reading. These are news articles that were written by beautiful journalists that don't necessarily know how to finish a story, and that's fine. Hello, Tiffany. But I thought this is how we're going to start this, and I will make adjustments as the time goes on. So that's what we're doing here. So let's see. We will move on. Let's see. Nope, I can't. I don't want to do a child case. It's awesome. It's not awesome. It's awful. Sorry. I was looking at one of the comments. Yeah, it's new to me too, Wayne, because I don't know what's going to happen. We're all reading it together for the first time. You would love darknet, people confess there. Okay, Sophia. There are some places I don't want to explore because my FBI agent, George, will see what I'm looking up, and I really don't need to have a personal conversation with my personal FBI agent. Just saying. I'm using the Google for certain things, and I guarantee you FBI George would show up. So if I tried to go to the darknet, just saying. And that's crazy. That's crazy and disgusting that there's an avenue for people to admit, post, and speak about those crimes. Just saying. All right, so the next one, this was written on October 17th, so again, yesterday. So this one is also kind of another shorty. So this starts as an Illinois man will spend decades in prison for drowning his wife of more than 42 years in their basement utility sink and claimed to police that she took her own life. Michael, who's now 68, must serve 100% of his 45 years in prison for the unaliving of his wife, Nancy. During the sentencing, the victim's children described her as the light in their lives and explained how their lives had been forever altered after her passing. Not only did they lose their mother in the most horrific way possible, but they also lost a father with his refusal to admit to what he had done. The unaliving of their mom has caused division between family members and has tarnished their name. And the children have suffered from depression, nightmares, and the burden of the prolonged wait for justice. So Nancy was unalived on November 19th at their home in Peoria. The defendant called the police, claiming his wife unalived herself. And his defense attorney said later he tried to save her, performing CPR for 15 minutes before calling 911. Around 1 p.m. that day, officers found her unresponsive with her head in a utility sink. An autopsy confirmed it wasn't a suicide, but a unaliving by drowning. The victim had significant injuries consistent with someone holding her head underwater. So, let's see. So Michael, the husband, he was retired from his job as an advertising representative for the Peoria Journal-Star, and he was arrested the following month and indicted by a grand jury. The case went to trial multiple times, the first two ending in mistrials. The third jury found him guilty of first-degree murder on August 14th. And that is that. That is horrible betrayal. I'm doing great. How are you? What's going on? Am I saying the word wrong? Illinois? Illinois, right? With no S. Tell me which one it is, because I don't want to be rude. Karaoke time. I think it's Illinois. Fairly certain it is. Peach fuzz. That's what I thought. Okay. I'm sure it's Illinois. Well, I'm sorry if I said it wrong, which I did because you're indicating it, so I apologize. All right, I've got one more and then we're going to read the big one. Woman ordered 100-pound Rottweiler to attack her boyfriend's 9-year-old daughter. Thank you, Wayne. Florida, good old Florida, prosecutors are seeking the death penalty against a woman accused of ordering her family's 100-pound Rottweiler to attack her boyfriend's 9-year-old daughter before fatally beating the girl. Tyshell, 35, is charged with first-degree murder, aggravated manslaughter of a child, and aggravated child abuse in the June passing of Jamira Sessions, about 25 miles west of Orlando. Investigators obtained videos from inside the home of the girl's savage beating, allegedly at Tyshell's, excuse me, it's spelled funky, hands. An autopsy determined Jamira passed away of blunt force injuries to the head, torso, and extremities, and thermal injury to the right foot. State attorneys in Florida's 5th Judicial Circuit filed a motion stating their intent to seek the death penalty in order to impose capital punishment for a murder in the Sunshine State. But in order to do that, they must prove beyond reasonable doubt at least one out of the list of aggravating factors. So it gives us the list, the statutes. So the capital felony was committed while the defendant was engaged or was an accomplice in the commission of or an attempt to commit aggravated child abuse. Capital felony was especially heinous, atrocious, or cruel. The capital felony was a homicide and was committed in a cold, calculated, and premeditated manner without any pretense of moral or legal justification. The victim of the capital felony was a person less than 12 years of age, or the victim of the capital felony was particularly vulnerable because of the defendant stood in a position of family or custodial authority over the victim. So there's no reason why she shouldn't get capital for that. Let's see. So Lake County Sheriff's deputies responded the morning of June 17th to a home in the 1600 block of Harbor Oaks Drive. Paramedics found the little girl naked with a significant number of abrasions, small punctures, burns, possible bite marks, and bruising covering her body, all in various stages of healing. They said the family was supposed to take a flight that morning to California for vacation. She told cops she tried to wake Jamira up, but she was unresponsive and cold to the touch. Detectives obtained nearly 3,000 videos from inside and outside the home and ultimately focused in on 6 videos that were taken shortly before midnight on June 15th. They allegedly showed Jamira being viciously attacked by the family pet, a 103-pound male Rottweiler, and the female is seen holding the dog's leash, encouraging the dog to bite Jamira as she's lying on the floor, just out of the camera's view. The next clips show Jamira staggering, nude, and disheveled. Jamira's hair, previously in a partial bun, was now messy, and her extensions were falling out of her hair. It appeared that the dog had bitten the child's head, pulling at her hair at the command of Tyshell. Tyshell then allegedly forces the child to stand in a place with her arms held up in the air. Jamira appeared to be disoriented and started to sway, which caused the female to kick her. The girl fell to the ground. The child lay motionless, moaning in pain. This is rough. Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. When the child did not get up, she grabbed the child by the hair, pulling her across the floor. Remember, we're all reading this for the first time, so for me to censor this is difficult if this is the first time I'm reading it as well. So my apologies. With minimal resistance, Jamira appeared disoriented and motionless. According to deputies, the female continued to beat Jamira and said something that sounded like, "I'm fixing to unalive her." Detectives also learned that the female apparently used exercises, including prolonged wall sits, running in place with her hands up, and running on a treadmill as a form of punishment. She would also kick, punch, and pinch the girl. Jamira's father, who's 27, is also charged with aggravated manslaughter. So both the girlfriend and the father. Thank you, Rick. Fool's Beer Gut is gonna stay off social media for a while. He possibly has a contractor job. So he said that earlier, which I don't know if you saw. But that's what's going on with Beer Gut. But we're happy he's around. So, okay, guys, that is the last of that one. I am going to read a fairly decent-sized article. And this one is kind of one of the bigger cases. So it's not a Jeffrey Dahmer, but when I say, typically I've been doing just little news articles. This one is an actual serial killer. So with this one, again, I'm reading what was sent to me, and I did skim over this one a little bit just to get a better understanding, and I did want to see how long it was. That's why I absolutely, Beer Gut, appreciate you. That's why I did want to do this one last, because it wasn't going to take the full hour. So, all right. Christopher Wilder lured women and girls with the promise of modeling gigs, then brutally aped and unalived them. So, just so you guys are aware, again, this is kind of a long one. We're talking about torture, unaliving, assaults on females, and if that bothers any other females in here, I would recommend probably not listening to this story, just as a heads up. So, in February 1984, Christopher Wilder embarked on a 7-week cross-country murder spree, torturing and unaliving at least 8 aspiring models and earning himself the nickname the Beauty Queen Killer. Trigger warning, thank you. Christopher Wilder enjoyed life in the fast lane, literally. A race car driver who preferred the finer things. Wilder had no trouble attracting beautiful young women with a nice car, an expensive camera, and of course, lies. Little did these women know that being seduced by this charming bachelor would cost them their lives. Who was Christopher Wilder? Born Christopher Bernard Wilder on March 13, 1945, in Sydney, Australia, his father was an American naval officer and his mother was Australian. Wilder's life of crime began early. When he was 17, he participated in the gang ape of a girl on a Sydney beach. He pled guilty but only received a year of probation and mandatory counseling, as reported in Michael Newton's The Encyclopedia of Serial Killers. During this time in counseling, Wilder underwent electroshock therapy. However, this had little, if any, effect on curbing his appetite for violence. In fact, the treatment may have actually inspired one of his many horrific methods of torturing his later victims. I don't know what we're doing here. In 1968, 23-year-old Wilder married. Almost immediately, his new wife found photos of other women wearing her own bikinis. She also accused him of sexual abuse and claimed that he had tried to unalive her. The marriage barely lasted a week. I'm not sure what you added, fools. Someone's username? Anyway, move forward. Quit looking at the thing. Okay, sorry guys. In 1969, 24-year-old Christopher Wilder moved to, Boynton Beach, Florida, where he made a fortune in construction work and real estate. He purchased a Porsche, a speedboat, and a luxurious bachelor pad and began racing cars in his spare time. Developing an interest in photography, Wilder also brought several high-end cameras. His hobby would soon become key in luring beautiful women back to his home, which we know who did that. Dahmer did that as well. Wilder spent his time prowling South Florida beaches in search of women to solicit. In 1971, he was arrested at Pompano Beach for demanding that 2 young women pose nude for him. In 1974, he convinced a girl to come back to his house under the premise of a modeling job. Instead, he drugged her and aped her. But Christopher Wilder never served prison time for either of those crimes. Without consequences, Wilder's actions only became more sordid. In 1982, while visiting his parents in Sydney, Wilder abducted 2 15-year-old girls, forced them to get naked, and took pornographic photos of them. Wilder was arrested and charged with kidnapping and sexual assault. The case was delayed multiple times, however. By the time he was finally scheduled to appear in court, he was safely out of the reach and back in the United States. The following year, he abducted 2 girls, aged 10 and 12, at gunpoint in Florida. He forced them, I'm not even going to say the word, to do sexual acts on him in a remote area. But Wilder managed to evade arrest for this crime as well. and it wasn't until much later that he was identified as their attacker. Christopher Wilder's violent streak continued unhindered. On February 26, 1984, Christopher Wilder embarked on a 7-week-long cross-country trip during which he unalived at least 8 women and girls, all aspiring models. This earned him the ominous name, the Beauty Queen Killer. I'm not even going to try to do it. I've already messed it up once. So the Beauty Queen Killer. Wilder's first known victim during his spree was 22-year-old Rosario Gonzalez, who was working at the Miami Grand Prix, in which Wilder was a contestant. Gonzalez was last seen leaving the racetrack with a man matching Wilder's description. On March 5th, a 23-year-old high school teacher and former Miss Florida finalist named Elizabeth Kenyon disappeared. Wilder and Kenyon had dated previously. He even asked her to marry him, but she declined. I don't know what happened. Kenyon was last seen by a gas station attendant filling her car. The attendant reported seeing a man who looked like Wilder at the station with Kenyon. The attendant also said that Kenyon and the man appeared to be planning a photo shoot in which Kenyon would model. Dissatisfied with the progress of the investigation, Kenyon's parents hired a private investigator. When the PI called Wilder to question him, the murderer was spooked. He fled to Indian Harbor, 2 hours north of Boynton Beach. And by the way, Miss Gonzalez and Miss Kenyon, I keep throwing a T in there. Hello. Neither one of them have ever been found. On March 18th, 21-year-old Terry Ferguson disappeared from a Merritt Island mall where witnesses recalled seeing Wilder. Her body was found 4 days later in a Polk County canal, say that 10 times fast, strangled and beaten so viciously that she had to be identified by her dental records. Christopher Wilder's next attack occurred on March 20th when he lured 19-year-old Florida State University student Linda Grover into his car, again under the premise of modeling work. Instead, he knocked her unconscious, tied her up, and drove to a motel in Georgia. There, he proceeded to ape and torture her for several hours, supergluing her eyes shut and shocking her with electric wires. Jesus. But against all odds, Grover managed to break free and lock herself in the bathroom and scream so loudly that Wilder fled. Can you imagine that? Sheesh. Grover was rescued, leaving her free to identify her attacker in photographs shown to her by police. Meanwhile, Christopher Wilder fled the state. Like, I literally got goosebumps. I literally have goosebumps thinking about that on your eyes. Oh, my goodness. Yeah, I agree with you, Wayne. On March 21st, Christopher arrived in Beaumont, Texas, where he tried convincing 24-year-old mother and nursing student Terry Walden to do a photo shoot for him. She declined. That day, Christopher mentioned to her husband that a bearded Australian had been asking to take her picture. 5 days later, her body was found in a nearby canal. She had been stabbed multiple times and passed away due to that. Christopher then fled in Walden's rust-colored Mercury Cougar. Authorities in Texas soon found Christopher's abandoned car during the search for Walden and discovered hair samples belonging to Terry Ferguson, confirming that Wilder was responsible for her death. Meanwhile, Wilder abducted 21-year-old Susan Logan from a shopping mall in Oklahoma City and drove 180 miles north to Newton, Kansas. He checked into a motel room where he aped her, shaved her pubic hair, and tortured her. He then drove 90 miles northeast to Junction City, Kansas, where he stabbed Logan to death and dumped her body in a nearby Milford Reservoir. She and Walden were discovered the same day on March 26th. I know, Peach Fuzz, I'm sorry. On March 29th, Wilder kidnapped 18-year-old Cheryl from a shopping mall in Grand Junction, Colorado. They were seen together several times, once at the Four Corners Monument, then checking into a motel in Page, Arizona. She was not seen again until her body was discovered in Utah on May 3rd. She had been fatally shot and stabbed multiple times. Many, Wayne, many. Again, we're reading this for the first time, so I skimmed over it, but let me see here really quickly. 8 to 18. 8 to 18 is what they believe. So I'll go back to this. Hold on, I need a drink. On April 1st, Christopher posed as a professional photographer and attended a fashion show in Las Vegas for aspiring models, competing to appear on the cover of 17 magazine. Some of you may remember 17 magazine. That was my all-time favorite. Yes, I am that old. I don't even know if 17 magazine is still around. One of the attendees was taking pictures, and by chance, Wilder appeared in the background of one of the shot, clearly oogling 17-year-old model Michelle Korfman in her miniskirt. At the end of the show, the beauty queen killer approached Michelle, and the two left together. This was the last time Korfman was seen alive. Her badly decomposing body was found over a month later in California's Angeles National Forest. An autopsy showed that she had died of asphyxia from soil being forced into her larynx and trachea. By now, Christopher Wilder had been linked to several murders across the country. Desperate to put his crime spree to an end, the FBI added him to the 10 most wanted list on April 3rd. The next day, Wilder abducted 16-year-old Tina Marie from Torrance, California, and began driving back east. In a strange twist of events, however, he did not unalive her. Instead, he kept her alive and demanded that she help him lure more victims. Terrified, Tina Marie agreed. So, Subi, may I? I'm like, Subi, may I? Subi, may I? So Subi, who you guys see here in the chat, Subi9267, Subi actually sent me this story that I'm reading to you now. And the cousin that was at, or the female that was at the Las Vegas show trying to get a modeling gig for 17 magazine, that is Subi's cousin. So, oh, you're gonna make me sad. Dang it. That was unexpected, Subi. Dang it, I'll text Subi. Shoot. Hold on, I'm gonna pull myself together. Sorry. Very unexpected. So Subi, thank you for allowing me to share that with the group. Dang it, I really did not expect that. So if Subi wants to throw anything in there, you know, he's more than welcome to. I'm gonna finish reading this. Holy bananas! I really did not expect that. Dang it all to heck! Good people and bad things happen. Oh, don't ever say I don't have a heart, friends. Don't ever say it, because that's not true. Well, I can officially say I cried on my life. How do you like that? Okay, let me go back. My goodness. On April 10th, Tina Marie helped Wilder abduct 16-year-old Donnette from Maryville, Indiana. Wilder drugged Donnette, aped and tortured her for 2 days, then stabbed her and dumped her in a wooded area of upstate New York. But miraculously, Donnette survived and managed to drag herself toward the highway. She was picked up and taken to a nearby hospital where she was able to give police more information about her attacker. Wilder's final victim was 33-year-old Beth Dodge. Wilder abducted Dodge near Victor, New York, where he fatally shot her, dumped her body in a gravel pit. He then drove to Boston Logan Airport. There, he bought Tina Marie a flight back to LA. Why he decided to spare her is a mystery to this day. The final chapter. Okay, just so you know, there's like a Hulu series about all of this. There is books, there's audiobooks, because he's one of the bigger ones, right? So on April 13th, Christopher was recognized by state troopers at a gas station in Colebrook, New Hampshire. As they approached him, Wilder leapt into his car and grabbed a .357 Magnum. One officer managed to restrain him, but in the struggle, 2 shots were fired. One shot passed through Wilder and into the officer restraining him. The other went straight through Wilder's chest, killing him. It is unclear whether Wilder fired the gun by accident or if he had purposely killed himself. Regardless, his reign of terror was finally over. It is believed that Wilder is responsible for several other unsolved murders, including Australia's horrific 1965 Wanda Beach murders and the March 1984 murder of Colleen Osborne in Daytona Beach. But Wilder took any knowledge about these other crimes with him to the grave. What he left behind were 8 known corpses, potentially even more, and a slew of traumatized young women across 2 hemispheres. The possibility of justice for the beauty queen killer, unfortunately, had died with him. So, fools, I have my own email for things that she can share with me, and I would appreciate it if you put mine on there. That'd be fantastic. Dang it, Subi. I cannot believe that happened, and I apologize, but I'm not sorry. So, it's okay. It's on my community. I'm having them send the stuff to Chaos and Criminals Gmail address, just so I can organize the crime stuff from kind of what you're doing. I mean, if she'd like to email you, that's fine, but just so it's more organized with the crime stuff. It's okay. It's okay. If it's fine. But anyhow, yeah, so that case, like I said, was brought up by Subi. One of his cousins was one of his victims, and we will never know the truth, unfortunately, with everything else, because that man took the easy way out. So, Subi, is there anything you want to say at all, or anybody? Just curious. How did who die, Earth? I'm going to say he shot himself. Oh, look at Wayne. Wayne's already emailed me, and I still haven't looked it up yet, Wayne. I'm a terrible person. Yeah, Earth, he shot himself. Oh, Carolyn, we're pretty much over. We're wrapping this one up. We just, Subi sent me a case. I don't know if you heard. The case that he sent me was about his cousin. So I cried which I didn't expect. But yeah, that's a rough one. So definitely taking crown shots after this. It was heartburn. Yeah. Yeah. So anyhow, that is Friday's cases, and I appreciate Subi, like I said, you sharing this one and allowing me to share this one, and um, I'm really sorry that happened in your family or to anyone's family, period, because I think the worst part is the not knowing. And I couldn't even imagine at all. Exactly, Wayne. That you're not wrong. That man had so many chances and he slipped through the cracks each and every time. Everyone to the garage. Fools is setting up. I already told him, I said, I'm coming to hang out with you after that. So yeah, he shouldn't have ever gotten that far, Wayne. You're absolutely right. I agree, Subi. I absolutely agree. There should have been a flight risk put on him. But again, I don't know what those laws were back then. I would imagine they would have been similar, you would think. But keep in mind, back then you could get on a plane without an ID. So who knows? To be continued. Yes, to the garage. All right, my lovelies. I am going to cut this one off for the day. Thank you, Rick. I appreciate that. There will be no crime show tomorrow. I will tell you that for sure because Miss Rainey will be bartending tomorrow. So I have no idea what time I'll be home from that. It's all going to be weather permitted because it's cold up here. And right now it is 6:30 our time. And according to the Google machine, let me look at the Google machine. No, it is 49 degrees at 6:30. And I will be working outside in the outside bar. So it's probably going to be right around the same. So maybe I'll get home early. I'm not sure. But Tiffany, pot roast was fantastic. Thank you, Henry. Yeah, absolutely. Full of technology. Yes, Bobby, I need to do the cold case stuff. That would be cool. It'd be so cool if we could solve some of them. That'd be awesome. Don't go braless. Oh my goodness, Mr. Blue. Okay, I love you all. Absolutely, Tiffany, there's plenty of leftovers. I can't say about tomorrow because Fools will be here by himself. But I love you all. I appreciate you. Fools has already exited this building to go into the other building. So I appreciate you. I am going to go hang out with Fools. And if you don't know, now you know. It's at Fools, FOOLS.ERRAND. That's where you can find me in a minute. So I love you all. I hope you have a good night. Drive safe, Carolyn. Hopefully you wore your hoops. And I love you. Thank you. Appreciate you. See you soon. Bye.